Tonight we're going to continue with our look at the mark of the beast. And tonight we're looking especially at what does it mean. Now, last time we looked at what we can find about this in the book of Revelation, especially in chapter 13, verse 16 through 18, where it says, "He," and that is the beast, "causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. All right, so we looked at that, and one of the things that we noticed last time when we talk about who is the beast is that when you compare what is said about the beast and how he's described as a leopard with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion, we see that that's a connection back to the prophecy in Daniel 7, where there were these four different kingdoms, and the first three being Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, and the kingdom of Greece. They are described as those different animals. And then the fourth one in the book of Daniel was just a very different kind of beast. It didn't really look like any particular animal. But here in Revelation, it is a combination of those three beasts, and which indicates it's the fourth kingdom that comes after them, that was like them, and that kingdom was Rome. So what happened to the beast and to those who worship him? If we also connect the prophecies together regarding that, I think we'll see a connection. It may not be worded in quite as clear of a way that there's a connection, but it certainly seems to be at least a very similar thing being described in Daniel and in Revelation regarding what happens to them. In Revelation chapter 14, in verse 9 through 11, it says, "Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, 'If anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever. And they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name.'" Back in Daniel chapter 7, in verse 26 and 27, talking about what happens to this fourth beast, or the kingdom of Rome, it says, "But the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it forever. Then the kingdom and dominion, and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him." And there we see the contrast between Rome, which was such a powerful empire, and how it is destroyed and brought down. And yet the kingdom of Christ will never be destroyed. It is one that is eternal. Well, when you compare those together, we find that, here we go. We find that in Revelation 14, in verse 10, it says that he will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. This is the one who worships the beast. So the one that's part of his dominion as far as religiously. And in Daniel chapter 7, it says, "They shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever." So all those who belong to the beast are destroyed. And again in Revelation chapter 19, in verse 19 through 21, it says, "And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army," that is, Jesus. Verse 20, "Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone, and the rest were killed with the sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh." So here we find the beast himself, along with the false prophet, who causes everyone to worship the beast. They are being thrown into the lake of fire, and everyone else following them is killed. Again, the same wording there in Daniel 7 that we looked at before. "They shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever." So Daniel 7, verse 26. So it says there that they will be destroyed. Their dominion will be destroyed. They're no longer ruling. They are thrown into the lake of fire. Those that follow them are also thrown into the lake of fire, and so or killed with a sword in this picture. So we find this idea of basically the same outcome for the beast in these two different prophecies. All right, well, what then is the meaning of the mark of the beast? What is this number of the beast, this 666? Well, if we look at it again, there in Revelation 13, verse 16 through 18, I think most people just have a very vague idea of what it is, but it tells us exactly what it is in these verses. It says that this is the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So it's a number of a name. It is a number that represents someone's name. And it says in verse 18, it is the number of a man, or the number of man, depending on how you look at that. But it represents somebody's name, is what it says. And so that is something that it just tells us what it means if we just simply read it. So it represents the name of a man. And, some people do think that it just means mankind in general. So in other words, 7 is the number that represents God or holiness, things like that, completeness throughout the book of Revelation. And so 6 is less than perfect, which, that's man. Some people think that that's what it means, but generally, if it says it represents the name of someone, then it should represent an actual name. And they did use numbers a lot of times in both Hebrew and Greek with the letters. They represented different numbers with the letters, and so somebody's name they could take the letters of that name and calculate, add them up, or however they do it. I'm not an expert in those things whatsoever, but however they calculate it from those letters, they would come up with a number that represents someone's name. Now, obviously, you're going to have many people with different names whose the letters of their names will calculate to the same number. But if we think about what was going on and that he's talking about, it's talking about Rome, probably, since it's someone's name, it is a specific ruler of Rome. And it seems to fit Nero the best. Others have different ideas, but 666 can be calculated out of the Hebrew letters for the spelling of Nero Caesar, which is a title that has been found written in Hebrew in a way that would calculate to this 666. There are some manuscripts that actually say 616 instead of 666, which in another way that also will calculate to Nero and maybe a little bit easier to do that. So it's not definite. We can't say for sure, but that seems to be the best explanation to me, but you can disagree with that. But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter who it is in particular, what the specific meaning is, but what it tells us is that it's the number of a man. And if you had that number written on you, it's the same as having his name written on you. That's the point. It's not some mysterious number that just has significance as a number. It represents a name. And that's the name of someone who is the beast, who people are worshiping. And so when they have the name written on them, well, it indicates that they are worshiping. And we'll look at that a little bit more. But let me try to speed up. There's another mark in the book of Revelation besides the mark of the beast. And we find that in Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 through 4. We won't read the whole thing, but in verse 3, it tells them to go through and seal the servants of God on their foreheads. And so they're getting a seal or a mark of God on their foreheads, those that are servants of God. We find them later in Revelation 14, verse 1 through 3, where there's the same number of people, 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. So again, it's a name written on their foreheads. And back in Ezekiel chapter 9, we see that same picture, that same imagery being written about those that were actually worried about the sin in Jerusalem, who actually cared about right and wrong. God, in a vision, had them have a mark put on their foreheads, and they were not killed with everyone else. So, but this mark is about a relationship. It's about worship. It's about loyalty. So when they have the mark of God, they are worshiping God. They're loyal to God. When they have the mark of the beast, they're worshiping his idol, his image. They're worshiping him. And we see that throughout mentions of this in the book of Revelation. In chapter 14, verse 9 and 10, especially verse 9 here, it talks about if anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, and so on. So that you see the connection between worshiping the beast and his image and receiving the mark on his forehead or on his hand. In Revelation 16, verse 2, it talks about those who had the mark of the beast and those who worshiped his image. That's not two separate people. That's actually the same group. And these are the people who are worshiping him, who have his mark. In Revelation 19, verse 20, it talks about those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshiped his image. Again, same, you see that connection very strong. In Revelation 20, verse 4, it talks about those who had not worshiped the beast or his image and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. So those that did not worship the beast, who did not give in to this idolatrous worship in Rome, worshiping the emperor and so on, they did not receive the mark, because it's not a physical mark. This is in a vision. It's not a physical thing, and so they did not actually receive this physically. But even in the vision, they didn't receive it because they did not worship this one. And then in Revelation 7, verse 3, talking about those that were sealed with the name of God, it says that these are the servants of our God. Those are the ones who are sealed with the name of God, those who worship God, who serve him. And talking about a reward for those that are with God. In Revelation 22, just down in verse 4, it says, "They shall see his face, and his name shall be on their foreheads." So that's true of all of those who serve God. In conclusion, the beast's number represents the name of a man. So he's not a supernatural being. He's just a human. He's pretending to be a god. He's not someone to fear. God will destroy him and all those who worship him, which are the ones that have his mark. That mark represents loyalty. It represents worship. We want a mark on our forehead. We want God's name. We want God to recognize us as belonging to him. And that's what the mark of the beast was about, was showing that these people belonged to the beast and worshiped him. So next time, I want us to look at what we can apply from this for us today. This is talking about something that happened a long time ago. It happened in the days of the Roman Empire. It is not about anything happening today, especially the particular name and number of 666. That's finished. But there are some things about this that we can learn from, and we need to get the point for what we need to think about today. All right. Thank you so much.